welcome to an Alternative Perspectives interview series. And I'm delighted to be joined by neurodiversity wellness coach James Wheeler. James, tell us a bit about yourself.
So, my name's James, and I am a neurospicy coach, and I'm built neurospicy as well. So I'm neurodivergent myself. Recently diagnosed with autism and ADHD, but I've kind of known and I've fallen into this line of work for a long while. So, yeah, currently working with neurodivergents that struggle to get fit and healthy and find that new sort of mentality around having to deal with like neurotypical traditional ways and how to tackle that.
Thank you for sharing that with us, James. So you mentioned that you were recently diagnosed. So can you tell us a bit about how is it that you found out that you were neurodivergent?
Really knew that there wasn't something quite typical as such about me ever since I was a kid. And I've always been on this sort of path of self-exploration. So I had a sort of an issue. So I tried to take my life early on, and thankfully that didn't go ahead. I'm a survivor, but that sort of raised a lot of questions for me. And then forward from that point 10 years, I met a couple of people that were heavily into sort of mental health and how it was back then. And this is going back 10, 15 years ago as well. So neurodivergent wasn't really a thing. And then it wasn't until I had children and I started noticing stuff that the help that I needed for my son. The first question that everyone asked was, "Oh, is it in the family?" I was like, "Well, yeah, probably." I got my diagnosis to make it easier for my son to get the support he needed.
Thank you for sharing that with us. And that, again, that's such a common story of a parent having a child and then realizing that actually could they perhaps be neurodivergent themselves? What are you? So how's your neurodivergence shape your career?
Think it's excelled at it. So things like pattern recognition, even some things like justice sensitivity, you're always like it's strange. My career path has been so odd. It's unreal. So basically I was in the forces. So I started like from school I went into the forces. I quit school because there was just looking back now, there weren't really a dopamine source there for me. Went into the Navy of all places to fix aeroplanes. So even that in itself is I went into the Navy to fix planes. Um, and then I probably found rejection sensitivity there, where I had a run in and I just instantly quit. And then I found myself as a lifeguard. Again, all these systematic, disciplined jobs that I've gone through, went through the ranks of being a lifeguard, where I was then one of the youngest ever managers recruited by the leisure centre. Um, and then I sort of got myself made redundant because I developed a team that was so strong and changed systems enough that worked so well. There was no need for an operations manager. They just needed their junior managers. And I backwardsly take that as a compliment. And from then on, I ran charity. I had a CIC, a mental health CIC in physical activity that I was running with a few other people um, for the local authority, our own gyms, and yeah, and I branched out to online personal training when I moved into my job that I have now. I then branched out into online personal training. But yeah, in the CIC, I was actually an MMA coach as well as managing director um, because I find contact and combat sports really, really helpful for my neurodivergence because you have to focus because if you don't, you get hurt. So it's that being able to clear your head and focus. So those are my two go-tos because and up until recently I was playing American football as well.
A very interesting career path, and again, very interesting hobbies. So MMA, you got American football again. Well, MMA more common, I guess. American football not so common over here in the UK. So,
Yeah.
how did you get into American football?
Yeah, it was a case of you don't mind getting hit, so give it a go
Mm,
and see what
mm.
happens. And yeah, and I just fell in love with it because believe it or not, it's very strategic. There's a lot of strategy that needs to go into it as a player. And so again, it's not a case of just running and getting hit. there needs to be some thought into it. So you're always switched on. There's no chance of any noise getting through. Otherwise, you'll get hurt.
Well, I guess that's probably the neurodivergent side of it. You can actually break down, I guess, the tactics of it.
There is I have a very set
Mm,
pattern and route and run that I would. So I played running back. So I would need to run a certain way, or I'd need to
mm,
block a certain player. And it isn't a case of just blocking that player. I need to block that player and move him in a certain path as well. And
mm,
everybody on that field has to do exactly the same. So it's a
mm,
game of like brutal chess as such. You have to move your pieces where you need them,
mm,
otherwise the play doesn't go as well as it is, and things like
mm,
that. And it's a lot of getting the small parts right to make it
mm,
all work, and it relies on yourself. Like you can't
mm,
blame your teammate for doing something wrong. You have to
mm,
make sure you do your job right. So, and
mm,
again, that was where mixed martial arts came in place. You train as a team, but
mm.
it's me against my opponent at the end of the day, even in sparring. Like there is that camaraderie there, which is great, but I have to hold myself accountable and I have to improve myself to be good at the sport. I can't rely on other people and I can't blame anybody else either.
Thank you, James. That's really interesting to hear the benefits that American football and MMA has helped you with. What do you think are the benefits of exercise for neurodivergent people?
Massive believer in exercise just improves your mood, but I think the misrepresentation of it is that exercise is great for your for dopamine, but that's where a lot of people leave it. They don't sort of explain to like exercise is a great source of dopamine if you know what to do with it afterwards. Like if you know how to use that energy and that funnel and that hyper focus to do something more productive long term. But also it's a great way to stay focused, get rid of the stresses of the day. I use it a lot for thinking, ideas, things like that, because you exhaust yourself. So you're kind of left in your own little world when you're exercising. And if you sort of allow the ideas to come, they tend to have the best ideas while I'm training. When you're training right, because just going to the gym doesn't always work for everyone. Like it doesn't work for me. Like I have to be in the right frame of mind. But if you're training right for your neurodivergence, then it can be such a like euphoric place to be.
You've talked about MMA, you've talked about American football, and from what you've said, you've had very positive experiences joining MMA and joining an American football team. So I want to ask you, what do you think can be done to make sports and exercise more accessible to neurodivergent people?
I think there's a lot that coaches need to learn that say that's not good. Try and do it this way. You need to explain why it wasn't good. You you can't just go, oh no, don't do it this way, do it this way. You need to explain why not to do it this way and explain why to do it this way and the breakdown in between. And for a long time, I was being coached, and these were great coaches. Like these were good coaches, nice, friendly people, but they just weren't descriptive enough in their coaching techniques. So I would go back and I'd reflect on it, and then I'd discover things myself. Okay, actually, what he meant was this. And what actually happened was I went from starting the season not really getting any game time to finishing the season being the starter running back with two back-to-back MVP awards. So it's a new world as such. So we need to give coaches time and grace and help these coaches sort of understand, okay, your coaching techniques are not going to work. That's no fault of your own. We need to adapt. And I had this conversation with an elite coach at a rugby club in my local area. Think of all the elite talent that you're stopping from getting to that stage because you don't understand how to coach neurodivergence. Like there's going to be a barrier where they think they're not good enough and you think they can't be bothered, but there's a miscommunication in the middle where you both really want to get to. Um, so yeah, so that's where my sort of stance is on neurotypical, like neurodivergent health and fitness and sports and exercises.
Do you have any tips that you would give to a neurodivergent person that is thinking of taking up sports or gym for the first time? Or I'll add to that. So any tips and advice for a neurodivergent person that's either starting gym or sport for the first time, or they're been doing sports for a while, but they're thinking of quitting, they're feeling they're not quite getting 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 there with their coach or trainer. So yeah, what advice would you give to a neurodivergent person in one of those two situations?
Yeah, so I think if you're starting out, understand, and a lot of us don't, we tend to rush into things. Understand that's exactly where you are. You're starting, and you can start anywhere. Like you don't have to start in the gym. You don't have to start um like at a elite club. You don't have to do anything like that. You can just start. And if you're not sure, there's plenty of information out there online. And if you're not sure, there are good handful of neurodivergent coaches that will quite happily go, they're all they have free resources. In terms of elite coaching, if you're passionate about something, if you are passionate and you truly believe that you've got more to give than what you feel you're giving, then take that. Don't quit because you definitely have more to give than what you're giving. Take that time, approach that coach, see what they say. And if that coach is not receptive to sort of helping you break that down, then that is a sort of mentality and ethos of the club. When you know you've got that bit extra to give, then there needs to be some form of sacrifice on whatever part, whether that's the coach's sacrifice for giving you a bit of extra time or yours by changing club or whatever it is. Then there needs to be some give because we know we're neurodivergence, we have high pattern recognition, we know if we can give more and we tend to be right. So so just stick with it.